Welcome to the regular Faroes News Report. We're here to give you the key updates and analysis from the sources we've gathered.
That's right. Our goal, as always, is impartial reporting. We'll cover the facts and the published viewpoints without adding our own discussion or speculation.
Okay, let's dive straight into the headlines for today's news segments. First up, the Faroes public sector has recorded a DKK 224 million deficit for 2024.
Then, a significant legal outcome. The court sided with labor unions in that 2024 strike dispute.
We'll also look at the housing market. Tórshavn apartment prices jumped 9% and are now actually exceeding the Danish average.
And some strategic infrastructure news. The Faroe Islands are exploring a connection to the new Denmark-Greenland submarine cable.
Also, a noteworthy maritime presence. The French naval intelligence ship, the Dupuy de l'Homme, is currently docked in Tórshavn.
And in wider regional politics, Greenland received a no-requirements promise from the EU, but we're seeing, well, diverging statements between Greenland and Denmark regarding the U.S. threat.
And finally, some great news on the sports front. A huge win for the Faroe Islands, defeating Montenegro 4-0 in football.
Following the news, we'll touch on several opinion pieces and official inquiries. These include Anna Falkenberg on Commonwealth unity and WTO membership.
An inquiry looking into the interest tax impact on small businesses.
Questions raised about municipal authority to set local land prices.
An inquiry demanding a financial status update on tunnel projects.
A commentary piece concerning the Gaza war and existential fear for Israel.
And lastly, a reader's letter discussing free abortion as a sign of totalitarianism within democracy. So quite a range today.
Right. Let's start with those public sector finances for 2024. The total public expenditure came in at just over DKK 15 billion.
15 billion. And how does that compare to last year?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. It's a 5.8% increase compared to 2023. That translates to an extra DKK 830 million in spending.
Wow, 830 million more. What drove such a large increase?
The biggest single factor was salary costs. They grew by 8%, which accounts for DKK 407 million of that growth.
8% on salaries alone.
Yes, and this was mainly within the social protection sector. It seems it's linked to specific salary lifts for certain professional groups that came into effect in 2024.
Okay, so spending is up significantly. What about income?
Total income reached DKK 14.8 billion.
So expenditure at 15 billion, income at 14.8 billion. That leaves a gap.
Exactly. The public sector recorded a deficit of DKK 224 million for the year.
And just to clarify, when we say public sector, what does that cover?
Good question. It includes the state, the municipalities, Danish state institutions operating in the Faroes, and also social security funds like ALS and Samholdsfassa. So it's a pretty broad measure.
Okay, moving from finance to labor law, there was a major development in the 2024 strike dispute.
Yes, this involved the Ministry of Finance and KAF filing a complaint against 4 big labor unions.
That's right, Faroe, Arbeiderflag, Havnar Arbeiderflag, Klaksvíkar Arbeiðs Finnufélag, and Klaksvíkar Arbeiðs Mannafélag. They were accused of an unauthorized strike back in May 2024.
So what was the outcome?
The Permanent Court of Arbitration actually rejected the claim from the state and municipalities. Flat out rejected it.
Really? On what grounds?
The ruling confirmed the union's right to strike, and interestingly, it referenced long-standing tradition, customary right, essentially.
Tradition. How did they establish that?
Well, testimony was apparently key. People like Ingeborg Vinther testified, and even the former mayor of Tórshavn, Hayden Bortensen, he stated that the municipality itself refused to take it to arbitration back in May because the unions had this customary right.
So historical practice trumped the specific complaint. That's quite a statement. Now, let's talk about something many people are feeling directly. The housing market in Tórshavn. After a couple of years of, pretty slow growth.
Things are heating up again.
Very much so. Apartment prices are climbing sharply. In the first half of this year, the price per square meter hit DKK 39,100.
39,100. What was it before?
Last year, it was around DKK 36,000. So it's a 9% increase.
9% in just a year. What does that mean for an average apartment?
Well, taking an average 85 square meter place, the cost is now about DKK 3.3 million. Last year was just under 3.1 million.
Okay, and how does this compare internationally, say, with Denmark?
That's the really striking part. The trend is similar to Denmark's rise, but the average price per square meter in Tórshavn itself has now actually surpassed the average in Denmark.
Surpassed the Danish average. Wow, that's a significant development. Right, shifting focus now to strategic infrastructure. There are plans moving forward for a new communication cable between Denmark and Greenland.
Yes, part of the latest Danish defense agreement involving Greenland.
And the Faroes are looking to get involved.
It appears so. The Faroes Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade is going to engage with the Danish Ministry of Defense. They want to investigate opportunities to link this new cable into the Faroes telecom system.
So connecting the Faroes to this major new piece of infrastructure.
Exactly. This was apparently agreed in a digital meeting between Minister Sirius Stenberg and the Danish Defense Minister, Troels Lund Poulsen.
Any next steps planned?
Further talks about Faroes' interest in the project are expected when Minister Poulsen visits the Faroe Islands later this year. And staying with the theme of strategic presence, there's currently a French naval vessel in Tórshavn.
Oh, really? Which one?
It's the Dupuis de l'Homme. It arrived recently and is scheduled to stay until Monday.
And what kind of ship is it?
It's specifically equipped for a naval intelligence service.
An intelligence ship. Okay, that certainly underlines the growing strategic focus on the region. Now let's broaden out to the Rigs Fellesskapet, the Commonwealth and international relations, particularly concerning Greenland. There was a notable statement from the EU side.
Yes, European Parliament President Roberta Metsola made it clear the EU won't impose requirements on Greenland. She supported their right to self-determination and territorial integrity.
Interesting. She also mentioned Arctic stability.
She did emphasize working with Greenland on that and also on confronting hybrid threats.
And the EU provides significant funding to Greenland, doesn't it?
It does. It's the second largest contributor, over DKK $250 million a year, mostly for education, fisheries, and climate initiatives. And there's talk of doubling that.
Right. It's quite unique given Greenland left the EEC back in '85 but still maintains these formal cooperation agreements.
It is. But this relationship and Greenland's stance seems to be causing some, let's say, different perspectives within the Commonwealth, particularly regarding the U.S.
How so?
Well, Greenland's Naalakkersuisut chairman Jens Frederik Nielsen spoke recently. He basically urged calm about perceived threats from the U.S., saying he and the government weren't worried about statements from the U.S. president.
Okay, urging calm. But that wasn't the message from Copenhagen.
No, quite the opposite, really. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, in her opening speech to the Folketing, warned against complacency regarding the threat. She stressed the need for, continued vigilance. So, two quite different tones there.
A clear divergence. Did Nielsen comment further on the U.S. relationship?
He was asked about meeting Donald Trump at a press conference. He kind of deflected, just emphasizing that Greenland wants closer partnerships with the U.S. and others, but only if done respectfully and according to international law.
Okay, let's wrap up the news section on a much more positive note. Football.
Yes, a fantastic result for the Faroe Islands.
Absolutely. A 4-0 victory against Montenegro, playing at Torsvöllur.
4-0. Brilliant. Any standout moments mentioned?
The report highlights the third goal by Hannes Sørensen, and the fourth was a penalty scored by Arne Frederiksberg.
Fantastic. And how was this received internationally, particularly in Montenegro?
Well, let's just say they weren't happy. Major Montenegrin news outlets Dan and Majesty apparently expressed outrage.
Outrage. Yeah. They called it an eye-opening defeat, and even the most horrible defeat ever. They referred to the Faroes as one of the world's worst national teams, and apparently gave no credit to the Faroes' performance.
Harsh words, but I suppose it shows how big a shock the victory was. A great result, nonetheless. All right, let's move into the opinion and inquiries segment now. First, Anna Falkenberg, the Sambandsflokkurin MP, spoke about the Danish Faroes Commonwealth, the Rikes Fellesskapet.
Yes, this was during the debate on the Danish Prime Minister's opening speech. She was defending the current setup.
How did she argue for its strength?
She pointed to the recent WTO decision allowing the Faroes separate membership under Article 6. She presented this as proof that the Commonwealth is flexible, accommodating.
But she also had a warning.
A strong one. She claimed that all other Faroes parties, besides her own Sambandsflokkurin, are prepared to actually withdraw from the Commonwealth. She warned this would have significant consequences and really stressed the need for unity. Next up, an inquiry about taxes. MP Annika Olsen submitted questions to the Finance Minister, Ruth Vang, about the interest tax, or rentaskatter.
The interest tax, what's the specific issue here?
It concerns the 35% tax on internal debt. That's basically when a company owes money to its owner, often because the owner put their own capital in to buy equipment or get started.
Okay, personal capital injection being taxed.
Right. The concern raised is that the rules around this were tightened back in 2015. And the argument is that this makes it harder for smaller companies and entrepreneurs who often rely on this kind of funding compared to bigger companies with easier access to other capitals.
So potentially disadvantaging startups.
That's the core of the inquiry, Olson is asking. When were the rules changed and why? Does the minister agree it hits small businesses harder? And crucially, is she willing to change the interpretation or even the law to help them out?
Annika Olsen was busy. She also submitted another inquiry, this time to the Minister of Legal Affairs, Bjarni Karrison Peterson, about municipalities selling land.
Yeah, this ties into the housing shortage problem.
How so?
Olson points out that municipalities are running into issues selling land, which slows down efforts to create more housing. She specifically mentions Tórshavn's practice of selling land at cost price within the capital.
Selling at cost price sounds reasonable, no?
In the capital, perhaps. But Olson argues this makes land prices too high and uncompetitive in the smaller villages affiliated with Tórshavn. She used Kollafjörður versus nearby Hasvik as an example.
So the cost price in a cheaper area might still be too high relative to neighboring independent municipalities.
Exactly. So she's asking, can municipalities use objective guidelines that actually consider these local conditions when setting prices? Does the current legal interpretation stop them? And is the minister willing to change things to allow for more flexibility based on location? Okay, another inquiry now. This one focused on major infrastructure projects, specifically tunnels. MP Johan Dahl questioned the Minister of Fisheries and Transport, Johan Christensen.
What's the concern here? Transparency.
Pretty much. Financial transparency for electing the parliament. Dahl wants clarity on the final financial status of some big tunnel projects. He seems worried about potential unexpected costs or the need for extra funding for projects that are finished or nearly finished but not fully settled financially.
Which tunnels specifically?
He asked directly about the status of the settlement for the tunnels north of the mountain, the Tunnlar Norra Shell, and also whether the Famgen tunnel project is completely finished and settled or if there's still outstanding work or costs. It's about getting the final bill sorted.
Now we turn to two pieces of commentary from readers' letters, reflecting some strong public opinions. The first one addresses the conflict in Gaza.
Yes. The letter apparently expressed hope for the end of the war after 2 years, but the main focus was, well, quite stark.
What was the core sentiment?
It expressed a deep fear that jihadists could potentially succeed in emptying Israel of its population. The author wrote, and we're quoting the source here, "Just the thought should make everyone in the West tremble in fear."
Strong words indeed. Any other context?
The article apparently also mentioned the author had been listening to a speech by Juror Skal. Again, we're just relaying the viewpoint published in the source. And the final item today is another reader's letter, this one by Ragnar Lidvig. It takes quite a philosophical approach.
How so?
It draws on the work of Professor Arle Gutko, dealing with what he calls totalitarian temptations within free democratic societies.
Okay, and what's the argument being made?
The author claims that liberal democracy is sort of drifting towards goals, similar to communism, though, without the violence, and that this drift is damaging, quote, the human nature of the average citizen.
That's a very strong claim. Did they provide a specific example of this alleged drift?
Yes. The author points to the issue of free abortion, calling it, and again this is directly from the source, an exemplary example of a totalitarian and heartless mindset within a democracy.
A very controversial take. How does the letter conclude?
It suggests the only way out of what it calls this perilous situation for sinful and badly fallen societies is through the light of the gospel, ending with the statement, Christ is the answer. As with the previous commentary, we present this viewpoint as it was published.
So quite a range of topics covered today, from significant financial deficits and housing price surges to major labor rulings, strategic positioning in the North Atlantic, and some very potent public commentary on global and social issues.
It certainly paints a picture of a nation navigating complex internal pressures alongside evolving external dynamics. That concludes our report based on the sources provided.
Like and subscribe to Pulse Fundamentals for more content like this. Sources linked below. Sources linked below.